Well, the popularity of the war in Ukraine and Russia has surpassed the popularity of other wars that it seems the media doesn't care much about. For instance, the war in Yemen, the war in Ethiopia, the war in Syria. I could go on. But the world is very interested in helping Ukrainian refugees at this moment, which is a very lovely sentiment, right? So governments around the world have opened their borders to refugees from Ukraine while keeping them closed to refugees from other conflicts which have raged for longer and are bloodier. Well, there's some unintended consequences of that, is that other refugees who've been in a long line for help and didn't get any are now seeking to prove that they are Ukrainian so that they too can skip the line. And I just want to say, can you blame them?
No, and look, we can't color everyone here with the same brush, Lex. There are definitely people who are in war zones, right? There are definitely people coming from regions that the world has ignored. You know, the Ethiopias of the world, the Syrias of the world, the Libyas of the world, like places where we're happy to go and have our wars and try to get rid of a quote unquote dictator and install our own proxy government. But who cares about the refugees, the people that are dying of cholera, which is what's happening in Yemen right now. So those people, yes, I absolutely support those individuals. Then there's, of course, the other crop of people that's seeing an opportunity here to come from other countries that are just, oppressed, have famine, wars, other problems, and deciding to come to Europe to take advantage of this. So this is
because right now the Ukrainian passport is a get out of, I don't want to say jail. It's a golden ticket around the world, right? Because most governments are willing to open their borders. In fact, I believe in Denmark now, the royal family has said they'll open up the castle there. So, while other areas of the world have passports that you can call C level, D level, or below, well, who can blame anyone from wanting that Ukrainian passport?
Well, it's
how many Syrian refugees do they have in the castle? Just out of curiosity.
No, I don't think they have any.
No, that's the thing. It's
not even
maybe
a token.
they work there.
Not even a token Syrian refugee.
A token
right.
Syrian.
Like, hey, I just got a Syrian refugee, so I can virtue signal about it. I mean, I love Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's a great actor. But even he a number of years ago had tweeted said he was going to take in Syrian refugees, and then looked into it and decided not to. And now he's once again. I mean, he lives in a $12 million mansion, right? Plenty of room for these additional, Syrian refugees to come in. And then he's doing the same thing now about Ukraine. I'm going to bring Ukrainian refugees to my house. We'll see if he looks into it and decides not to do that again. Anyway, right now, the numbers are pretty stark. Here's the latest details on this. 30% of Ukrainian refugees are actually from other countries. And Sweden, for instance, hey, come on here, we're going to ban all refugees unless you're Ukrainian. And now you can imagine why people are taking advantage of this. This is an Irish family that they decided, they said, and look, people have kind hearts. People are opening up their houses to refugees, right? Mm-hmm. They're saying, we want to help, right? We want to help these people. We're seeing all the media coverage of it. We didn't even know about Yemen, but we want to help these people. So I'm not going to discount what these people are doing. They have kind hearts, okay? But then they're being duped. So here's an Irish family. This one's going around. Steve Laws tweets this. Ukrainian refugees arriving in Ireland.
Yes.
Now, remember, almost the entire country of Ukraine is white.
Yes.
There's no people of color that live in the country of Ukraine. I mean, and I know that's being pretty general, but that's pretty much accurate. There's no people of color that live in the country of Ukraine.
Well, I don't think that's true. In fact, the most recent Ukrainian uprising in 2017 was led by someone of Afghan descent. They do have brown people in Ukraine.
Okay, maybe 10 of them, but for the most part...
the Ukraine actually prides itself on the fact that you don't have to be ethnically Ukrainian to be accepted into normal society.
Okay, so here's the Gaelic team, which we're delighted. They've tweeted this. We're delighted to have the opportunity to welcome a group of brave, resilient people to Dr. Hyde Park today. They've traveled to our town to find refuge from the horrors of the war in Ukraine. And then they deleted the tweet because they found out these people are not Ukrainian. I mean, do they don't exactly
Okay, but
necessarily
it doesn't
Ukrainian.
have to do with skin color, is what I'd like to just throw this out, right? You don't have to look Ukrainian to be Ukrainian.
Okay. True. You don't have to look Chinese to be Chinese. I
Yes,
guess.
sure.
Okay. But when you have a fake passport that is not Ukrainian and you're pretending to be Ukrainian and you don't look anything like the passport you're holding in your hand, then that's a problem. So here's an example of these refugees arriving that don't exactly have the skin color of the actual passport they're holding.
Yes, okay. Yes, but
D'accord, ok. Donc ça, vous me dites que c'est vous?
Oui, c'est moi, ça.
D'accord, ok. Mais il y a combien de temps?
Ah, il y a longtemps. Ça
Il y a
fait
longtemps?
Plus de 20 ans.
Ah oui, ça doit être il y a très longtemps.
So that is me. That's me 10 years ago. Yes, that's me.
okay, but I don't think we should blame anybody here that's actually trying to take advantage of these rules or trying to pass off as some. How can you blame somebody that's escaping a collapsing society and is saying, oh, here's a way to use paperwork to get past the brick walls that don't let me into a livable society? That's trying to help their family. Like, I don't want to get into this area where we're saying the people who pretended to be Ukrainian are the despicable ones because you don't know what they've been escaping. Would you not, if those little kids in that picture of the Irish family, like look at the little one with the pacifier, if they were your kids, is there anything you wouldn't do to get them into a safe house? You wouldn't use whatever paperwork you could find?
So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here.
Okay, let's unpack it then.
Okay. So people using illegal passports to enter a country under the auspices that they are from Ukraine. Uh-huh. Okay. You think that's okay?
I'm saying I don't
by the
want
way, that's why I wanted to point out at the very beginning, these are not all people like coming from Yemen.
How do you know where
Because
they're coming
because
from?
the report, as you would have seen, the reports are from some from Iraq, Nigeria, all sorts of other countries that have nothing to do with
this conflict, but
this conflict.
also are living in pretty crappy situations.
Okay, so then the argument is that you should use just any fake passport you want and come into a country.
My argument is that human borders are bullshit. Period. There are places that
Now
are
we're
safe
getting
for
to the heart of what
humans,
I'm
and there
saying.
are
Yes.
places that are not.
Now we're getting to the heart of it.
And so I'm
And
saying
this-
if that was my child there that didn't have a safe place to live,
Right.
then there's nothing I wouldn't do.
Now that's
whatever
why,
document
that's
it
why
took
I'm
me.
showing up the ridiculousness of this, right? So Sweden can say, hey, no refugees allowed in our country unless you're a nice white guy from Ukraine.
Right. This is the part of the outrage, right? Is that we're saying, oh, we're doing all of these grandstanding, all this generosity for people who are only from this one conflict. And so anyone else who's going through these desperate, do you know how much it costs to get any kind of fake paperwork on the black market? Like this is something someone's had to work to do.
Right. So we're hitting on a couple of key points here that I wanted to bring up. Number one, there's an entire black market that's emerged around these passports. So there's people profiteering right now, as the German newspaper Bild has reported on. By the way, Germany has done remarkable reporting on this. And they're pointing out that this whole cottage industry of fake passports has now emerged to make all sorts of money off of this situation in Ukraine. So it's not helping the people of Ukraine. It's helping these people are profiting off of fake passports and they're basically sharing them with the rest of the world.
But is it helping people who have otherwise hit brick walls? In which case, I don't know that I have a problem with it.
But you're also then preying on people's generosity too. So I'm helping someone from the country of Ukraine to get
Or
people
pointing out the myopic viewpoint of certain people's generosity, like that person there should only open his home to Ukrainians.
Perhaps maybe Benedict Cumberbatch, who was going to open his home to Syrian refugees, and then realized that they were Syrians and not something else, and then he looked into it and decided he wasn't going to open his doors anymore to it. I mean, I think we're unpacking a lot of the hypocrisy around all this whole scenario. That's why we're doing this
there's
story.
Several people in the chat calling out like they're breaking the law, but the thing is, laws are just as man-made as borders.
Yes.
Just because it's a law doesn't mean it's just or right or the correct thing to do.
Well,
like,
like I also think about so if we want to use the example of Nigeria, right? So like Nigeria, like you have these artificial country lines that are drawn in Africa by white people, colonialists who came to Africa and literally just drew lines across the middle
And
of
then
Africa.
tell them what the law is here versus there, right?
Right. Or here, you're going to live in this particular country. There's no water source. There's no river. There's nothing. But we're going to plant you right in the middle here where you have artificial borders around you, so you have no access to fresh water.
Well, I
There
mean,
you
you
go.
look at like the Tutus and the Houthis, like that was like a imperialist sort of like, no, you people are now in the same country, and
Right.
the Rwanda did not work.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so like
Exactly.
we have a long track record of screwing that up.
So in some ways, that's why I wanted to unpack this, and because there's a lot of nuance to this story. There's absolutely a lot of nuance to this story, and there's no one like simple answer to it. The idea of like, hey, if you're Iraqi and you're looking for an opportunity to get out of that hellhole that we created, right? And you come to England. Like,
Yes.
isn't that a funny about face? Like one of the very countries that destroyed your country is now having to harbor you, and you go on the some people are saying, oh, well, now you come to these countries and you're using up their welfare resources that are meant for the Scottish people, or they're
Well,
meant
that's
for
exactly what people in Sweden think happened to their economy is the influx of immigrants has basically, because in Sweden you can go there as an immigrant and then you're eligible for all social programs, and it's basically bankrupted that country.
Here's another group of Ukrainian, quote unquote, Ukrainian refugees. As a reporter is asking them, because it's interesting if you think about it, like in Ukraine, if you're a man, 18 years old up to 60, and you're a Ukrainian citizen, you're not allowed to leave. Like, you've got to stay and fight the Russians right now, right?
Yes.
So, okay, well, then how old are you? And these particular Ukrainians who have these passports were asked I think at one of the transportation hubs here at either airport or train station, how old are you? And they said, oh, we're over 60 years old. You be the judge.
Ask you a few questions. You've arrived. I see you've arrived here at the refugee center here.
Yes, sir.
For Ukraine, yeah?
Yes, sir, Ukraine.
Are you Ukrainians?
Yes, sir. We are
Okay.
Ukraine.
And you flew in from
From Ukraine.
Ukraine?
Yes,
Okay.
From Donetsk.
Okay.
Donetsk, city Donetsk.
Yeah?
Yes.
If you don't mind me saying so, you don't look like you're from
okay.
Ukraine?
No, we just national of Ukraine.
You're just nationals of Ukraine passport. Okay,
by
so you're
origin.
Ukrainian citizen
Yeah.
Okay.
Ukrainian city by origin, we are from State Jammu Kashmir.
from Kashmir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Indian. Okay.
No
So-
area, but
Yeah, so I'm just an Irish journalist here, citizen journalist. So I'm just asking, we're concerned here in Ireland that they're taking in 200,000 people,
okay. Yeah.
and we were being told that it's women and children are being taken in. So are you're claiming refugee status here now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we just heard reports that there are people coming from Middle East, Africa, or whatever, who aren't Ukrainians, who are coming in through this refugee centre, and we were told as Irish citizens that it's women and children. So how do you feel about that?
Nice.
Good question. And if you think about what 200,000 people could do to a country that doesn't have, the size and the girth of other countries, it can totally upend a society, right? So it's a legitimate question. Women and children. Huh, interesting. And what the 18 to 60-year-old threshold for fighting fighting in Ukraine, and then they later claimed they were over 60 years old.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I'm having a hard time sympathizing with governments at this point that are choosing who gets what, and then we're
Well, I think
outraged
there's
that people
hypocrisy.
I guess
don't
the only
follow the rules.
I have the problem with the hypocrisy of all of this. I mean, it's like we go in and we bomb Yemen,
Right.
we destroy your freaking country. We go to Libya, we go to Yemen, we go to Syria, we go Ethiopia, we go to Kuwait, we go to Somalia. I mean, the list is endless. All of these Western imperialist powers that destroy these countries, and then we don't help them out. We leave them. In the case of America with Afghan refugees, we deferred them. Oh, the 4,000 Afghan refugees that were going to come to the United States? No, we're going to send them to Canada. We're going to defer you to Canada, even though we destroyed your country for 20 years. But now Ukrainian, well, 200,000. Well, we will welcome 200,000 Ukrainians in the United States. The same
Right.
thing with Ireland.
Come on in.
Come on in, because you're like us. You're white people. You're white people. So come on in. I'm sure you won't disrupt society like maybe those Somalians would. Like, that's the hypocrisy that I can't get past.
Well, the same in Sweden, right? In Sweden, they have such a problem with people having this Iraq and Iranian and Middle Eastern immigrants who they say have taken all their, like, drained their social health programs. Ukrainians will do the same thing. Like, someone who needs a doctor. It doesn't matter the color of your skin.
Right, but ignore that.
Right.
Maybe.
So it's only brown people that drain social systems,
Right,
not
but-
white
Well,
people,
it's because
right?
the brown people had their whole lives disrupted and everything. The white people that are coming out, they were middle class, so they still got money. They're going to fund themselves. They're not going to need taken care of, like,
Right.
the ones that don't have any money or food or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. They are. They're self-starters,
Yeah.
They're just going to have their own business. They don't have to take anything from the society. Like when we moved, we had to show that we were able to sustain ourselves and weren't going to take from the social services of the country we moved to. Like, that's what you have to do, right? I think that maybe the solution to all of this is, hey, let's stop bombing other countries. Let's stop making people leave their homes and destroying their homes and their society. Maybe that's where it starts, instead of like artfully trying to figure out exactly
Like who gets where and who gets through what border. There's a beautiful piece of fiction, if you're not the kind of person who likes to read history books, called The Beekeeper of Aleppo, about Syrian refugees and what they had to get through to in order to leave their country, in order to prove who they were, in order to get into any kind of country and get refugee status. It is hard. It is expensive. It is very dangerous. It is not as nice of a ride as it would seem that Ukrainian refugees are getting at this point. And I want to keep asking ourselves this question: why do some people get at the front of the line? Why do we care more about some and not others? We can care about them all the same, but we choose not to.
Yeah, well said. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.